Now, to figure out whether you're truly an empath or whether what you're experiencing is actually anxious attachment, we're going to break this down into 5 simple signs. And stay with me until the end, because the final sign is usually the one that makes everything click. You can be a naturally empathetic person who genuinely picks up on emotions, cares deeply, and has strong intuition. But if you grew up around inconsistent love, emotional unpredictability, or conflict that didn't feel safe, that sensitivity may have also made you more vulnerable to anxious attachment. So let's get into it. Sign number 1. A secure empath can feel other people's emotions without becoming controlled by them. The first major difference between a secure empath and someone with anxious attachment is this. A secure empath can sense what someone else is feeling, but they don't automatically lose themselves in it. For example, let's say your partner comes home quiet. A secure empath might notice something feels off. Maybe they're stressed, tired, or upset. But they don't instantly spiral into, what did I do? Are they mad at me? Is this the beginning of the end? That second reaction is where anxious attachment often shows up, as it often interprets emotional shifts as danger. The danger of being abandoned, unwanted, or just too much. Have you ever felt that? Someone's tone changes slightly, and suddenly your whole body is on alert. You're wondering if you did or said something wrong. You're trying to predict whether they're about to leave. And you may call that being an empath because you're very tuned in to their emotions. But the question is, are you observing their emotions? Or are you being hijacked by them? Because those are two very different things. A secure empath can think, I care about this person, and I can feel something is going on, but I don't have to absorb it as mine. An anxiously attached person may think, if they're upset, I need to fix it. That's the difference. Both empaths and anxiously attached people can be sensitive to emotional shifts. But a secure empath only has emotional awareness, while anxious attachment sees emotions through an abandonment wound. Sign number 2. An empath cares deeply, but anxious attachment feels responsible. Now, this is one of the biggest distinctions. A true empath genuinely cares. They notice when someone is suffering, and they want that person to feel better. They may be the person others come to for comfort, advice, or emotional support. That can absolutely be part of being an empath. But anxious attachment adds another layer of, if they're unhappy, it's my job to make them happy. And that's not empathy, but emotional responsibility. Because if your nervous system only feels calm when everyone around you is calm, you may be living in a pattern where other people's emotions control your sense of safety. It's normal for a secure empath to care, but it becomes anxious attachment when care turns into a survival strategy. When you feel like you have to keep everyone happy so they don't withdraw love. That's your nervous system trying to prevent disconnection. And this often starts early. If you grew up around emotionally unpredictable people, you may have learned to scan moods as a way to stay safe. You learned which tone meant trouble, and that silence often meant punishment. So now, as an adult, you may think, I'm just really intuitive, and you might be. But part of that intuition may also be hypervigilance. Hypervigilance can look like empathy from the outside. You seem thoughtful, attentive, and emotionally intelligent. But inside, you're not relaxed, you're bracing. Sign number 3. A secure empath has boundaries, while an anxiously attached empath loses theirs. Now let's talk about boundaries. A lot of people think, if I'm an empath, that means I naturally have bad boundaries, but that's not actually true. A healthy empath can still say no. A healthy empath can love deeply and still think, this is not mine to carry. But an anxiously attached empath often struggles to know where they end and the other person begins. If someone is anxious, you become anxious. If someone is disappointed, you feel like you failed. Does that sound familiar? This is what we could call emotional contagion. It's when you don't just understand someone's emotions, you absorb them. Their crisis becomes your crisis. And before you know it, you're not just supporting them, you're carrying them. Maybe your friend has relationship drama, and suddenly you're losing sleep trying to help them solve it. Maybe your partner is unhappy, and your whole day revolves around figuring out how to make them feel better. And this is where anxious attachment becomes exhausting. because you're constantly trying to regulate other people so you can feel regulated. Some people may even praise you for this, and that can feel good, but you have to ask yourself, is this relationship allowing me to be a full person, or am I only valued when I'm useful? Because if your identity becomes the helper, the fixer, or the emotional caretaker, you may start ignoring your own needs without realizing it. And eventually that can lead to resentment, exhaustion, or numbness. And care without boundaries eventually becomes self-abandonment. Sign number 4. Oversensitivity to the outside world may be a sign of a dysregulated nervous system, not empathy. Now let's talk about something that gets misunderstood a lot. Many people believe that if they're overwhelmed by crowds, loud noises, hectic environments, or intense emotional situations, that automatically means they're an empath. And it might be connected, but it can also point to a nervous system that is still carrying unresolved stress or emotional trauma. You may be sensitive to people's emotions because you care deeply and intuitively pick up on what others feel. But you may also be sensitive because your nervous system is constantly scanning for danger. If you grew up in an environment where people's moods changed quickly, affection was inconsistent, or conflict felt unsafe, your body may have learned to stay on guard. You may think, I'm just absorbing everyone's energy. But another question to ask is my body actually in a state of emotional threat? Because if your nervous system is already activated, everything feels louder, including other people's tone or even silence. Anxious attachment is not just thinking too much. It's a nervous system pattern. It's the body saying, connection does not feel stable, so I have to stay alert. And if you're naturally empathetic on top of that, the experience can feel even more intense. Because now you're not only noticing what others feel, but you're also afraid of what this might mean for your safety in the relationship. This is why two people can do the same caring behavior, but from very different places. One person checks in because they feel grounded and loving. Another person checks in because they feel panicked and need reassurance. Same behavior on the outside, very different emotional engine underneath. So if you want to know whether it's empathy or anxious attachment, don't just look at what you do. Look at what's driving it. Is it love or is it fear? Sign number 5. Can you stay connected to yourself? This is the point that usually makes everything click. The biggest difference between being a secure empath and being anxiously attached is the ability to stay connected to yourself while feeling the other person's emotions. A secure empath can care about someone else's pain without abandoning their own body, needs, values, or peace. Anxious attachment, on the other hand, often creates urgency. You feel like you have to act immediately. So if someone you love is upset, your body may react as if the relationship is at risk, even if nothing has actually happened yet. And that urgency can make you do things that don't come from your grounded self, such as over-explaining and apologizing even when you did nothing wrong. And here's a question that can help you tell the difference. After you support someone, do you feel peaceful and connected, or drained, anxious, and invisible? Because healthy empathy may sometimes be tiring, but it doesn't usually require you to exhaust your core life energy. Anxious attachment often does. You become so focused on what they feel, what they need, what they might do, or what they might think, that you lose contact with the most important question: what am I feeling? Because your emotions and your nervous system count too. You might have a very real gift for sensing emotion, offering warmth, understanding people, and noticing what others miss. But if that gift has been mixed with trauma, fear, poor boundaries, or a deep need to keep people close, then it may not feel like a gift. It may feel like a burden. And that's why healing is not about becoming less caring. It's about becoming more secure. You don't have to stop being sensitive or loving deeply. The goal is to become someone who can feel without drowning. Now, how do you know which one you are? Here's a simple way to look at it. You may be a secure empath if you can feel other people's emotions, but you know they are not yours. You can care without needing to control or fix. You can support someone without abandoning yourself. You can show love while still protecting your nervous system. You can tolerate someone being upset without making it your emergency. You value closeness, but you don't lose yourself in it. You may be dealing with anxious attachment if someone's mood instantly changes your sense of safety. You feel responsible for keeping people happy. You panic when someone feels distant. You overthink tone, silence, or delayed replies. You ignore your own needs to maintain closeness. You confuse emotional intensity with love. You tolerate more than you would ever advise someone else to tolerate. And you may be both if you truly are highly empathetic, intuitive, and caring, but your nervous system also reacts to emotional distance as if it's a threat. And honestly, this is very common. A sensitive child who grows up in an unpredictable emotional environment may become extremely skilled at reading people. They may become the peacekeeper, the one who tries not to need too much. And later in life, they may call that being an empath. But part of it may also be an adaptation, a survival skill, a way they learn to stay connected, avoid conflict, or prevent abandonment. So now you know the difference. But if you recognize yourself in both, that doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your sensitivity may be real, but your nervous system may also be asking for healing, boundaries, and safety. If this helped you understand yourself more clearly, subscribe for more videos on love psychology, attachment, and emotional healing.